owner of Food Forest Canada, and I'm the head of design at Food Forest Abundance, a mentor with Verge Permaculture, and I'm a musician, and I play music, and I dance, and I'm a mother of two.
Hello, and welcome to the Permaculture Vine Podcast. My name is Cormac Harkin, and today we're joined by Lindsay Brandon. Welcome, Lindsay.
Hello, thank you for having me, Cormac. Great to talk to you.
Thanks for coming on. Lindsay, just want to give a quick introduction to yourself first there, please.
Sure. Yeah, my name is Lindsay Brandon. I am the owner of Food Forest Canada, and I'm the head of design at Food Forest Abundance, as well as a mentor with Verge Permaculture. So I'm working with permaculture design, doing mentoring and running a team of designers based out of Florida, as well as doing consulting close to my home in Calgary, Alberta, here in Canada, and designing here, as well as building community, learning who's around me, who's doing what in Canada, and trying to expand the network of people that are connected in permaculture here in Canada.
That's good. So a lot of stuff to cover there.
Yeah, and I'm a musician.
You're very brave.
And I dance, and I'm a mother of two teenagers. Yeah, there's definitely a lot going on over here.
Yeah, and it's a common theme amongst people in permaculture that I've read. What's they call, like, stack or ice flow.
Yeah, absolutely. I felt like that too coming into permaculture. It was a nice fusion of all the things that I've done up to this point. I went to art college. I took sculpture, so I did a lot of like fine arts and a little bit of design, not so much. It was more like three-dimensional sculpture and glass blowing and photography and video. And then I did 12 years of fitness. So that was a lot of like working with people. And yeah, when permaculture came about, it was just a nice fusion of those two things. And it also kind of wove in the performing arts aspect of what I was doing, playing music and doing, dancing and shows and getting used to being on stage and presenting and things like that. So yeah, permaculture is a great blend of all the things I've done up to this point.
So you can say there. So how did permaculture come along in your life?
Well, it came along quite a long time ago, actually about 15, 16 years ago when I had my son. I moved from Vancouver Island back to Alberta, and Vancouver Island was very, forward thinking in terms of eco-consciousness, we'll say. There was a lot of trade and there was a lot of back to the earth sort of markets and things that I was involved in when my children were very little. And when I moved back to Calgary, it was like, oh no, I'm going back to like corporate Calgary. There was this big like spray painted cow assumption on the fence that I just thought, oh, what have I done? But at the same time, it was like I found this one store. It was called Riva's Eco Store. And they were like the first eco-conscious sort of establishment that I could find in Calgary. So I went and worked with them. They were selling natural clothing and body care, all the way up to home renovation supplies, VOC-free paints and renovation supplies and all sorts of things that you couldn't really find in other markets. So that was an eye into the permaculture world, is where I started meeting people that were involved in that. I took my certification just in 2021. I've been gardening my whole life, grandma's way. So taking the permaculture education, it was pretty eye-opening. I didn't really realize the density of the content that was there. And it was really life-changing, which is really great. I was inspired by the amount of topics that you could investigate. But at the same time, I knew permaculture was going to be something that I wanted to do as a group. It wasn't really something I wanted to do as an isolated individual. I've always been a very solo entrepreneur in all my endeavors. So it was a nice opportunity for me to just be like, you know what, maybe I'm going to join an ecology of some kind in this vein of a study and inquiry.
Yeah, so you were gardening then before you did your PhD?
Oh, yeah, my whole life I was. I remember when I was 16, the first time I was 12. I was in grade 6. And I got my first perennial flowers when I moved from Ontario to Calgary. And that's really where I started to pick up the passion. It's about in grade six. So every year, I had my own little special garden and I could add to it. And then fast forward, till I'm 23 years old and I'm pregnant with my first child. And I started my own business called The Gardener for the Hood of Wood. And I took care of people's flower gardens. I just thought, if I'm pregnant, I still was entrepreneurial. I wanted my own business. I said, I just want to hang out with the flowers and be a prego and be outside and, be around beauty and be outdoors. And yeah, so, and my family too in Saskatchewan, growing up with my family, everybody always had huge annual gardens that we would take care of. So lots of memories with my relatives there as well.
And was that permaculture gardener, or did that come? Did the PDC change your gardening style?
It absolutely did. Yeah. It showed me how much, I had really adopted from my grandmother and my mother and how, they were doing just the best that they could do with the knowledge that they had as well. So it wasn't really common knowledge. So the PDC definitely changed the way I was looking at things. And then also opened my mind up to deeper inquiry. I was like, hey, well, wait a minute. Now I don't really understand how the soil works, right? So I had to kind of like figure that out too. I was like, well, if I'm going to be doing this, I want to have a deeper understanding of that process. So
Yeah,
and
and then
again, it was like a weaving of learning how yoga, right? Doing yoga was like how to human. So I felt like if I went down the soil path and learned how the soil worked, it was also going to lend well to understanding humans a little bit more, right? Understand the microbiology and see how that's reflected in human nature.
right, so you really dive into the detail,
Yeah.
which makes a good skill to have for head of design.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. You just have to have a limit, right? Because you can
Yeah.
design so intensively. You got to put limits on that sometimes.
Uh, Tell us about your PDC. Where did you study that?
Yeah, I took that with Verge Permaculture here in Alberta. That's where they're based out of. It was online at the time. And I was actually considering doing more sound healing training, and it was kind of like one or the other. And I've been doing a lot of sound for a long time, singing mantras, playing sound bowls and harp and harmonium. And I just thought, maybe I don't need that education as much as this one will bring something brand new into my world. And there was an opportunity to apply for a business grant in Alberta. So I did that. I went and got a business number and I applied for the grant and they covered 75% of the education. So I was really pleased about that. It was online and, everybody was all locked up. So it was good timing. I could just sit in front of the fire and study and really dive deep into it.
Yeah, that's I done an online one as well. Just 'cause time, didn't have the time to dedicate 2 weeks.
Yeah, it was long. It was like October to March was how long I was studying for. And they were live talks that you could also just watch if you wanted to, but of course I wanted to take part. We were also isolated. It was nice to have, a social opportunity to gather with like-minded people, and there was a lot of breakout rooms and things like that, which I really liked, and then opportunity to expand in your community locally, right? And start your own telegram group, or have your own little hub of people and find who's all living in Calgary and commune with them. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, something I should really, well, something this year I'm trying to focus on is local connections as well, and get a bit more practical, get my hands dirty.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
so you said the PDC changed your garden style. How did it change as well? You're thinking of um anything else? No, did you notice it changed anything else? Your pattern recognition, things like that, just day to day.
Absolutely. Yeah, a lot of it, right? It really had me look at the relationships between things, um, and how things were interconnected. It got me away from feeling super satisfied from getting all those weeds out and looking at that nice, clean black dirt, right? Like what a nightmare that is now to even think about having exposed soils. So aesthetically, also my vision changed, the idea of polycultures and how to make that beautiful, right? How to mix the idea of multiple species, not necessarily looking crazy and chaotic, because that's what I was used to doing in my businesses, right? Was making things look beautiful. So it was interesting to apply this, how to add that aesthetic of beauty into something that's more functional for food. So
Well,
I've been able to do that with concentric patterns is how I worked it on the farm that I was working on for the past 3 years. It was interesting to bring in perennial systems in a way that could grow like a raindrop, right? So you starting with a small circle and then adding species and adding species. So these circles of perennial growth get bigger and bigger and make quite beautiful geometric patterns.
so we on the farm when you did the PDC?
Nope.
Oh,
I was only on the farm part-time when I was there. I was in the city and then I would go out there on the weekends. So I was kind of back and forth. I was able to apply everything I learned from the PDC up to this point. It was a monoculture field when I started there. So by the time I'd left, it was absolute permaculture oasis. Yeah, it only took 3 years, right? And now there's a full orchard there and everything. So I left a legacy.
great. So, you're entrepreneurial and you finish your PDC. What's going through your mind then, and uh, how does that sort of, how do you decide your next steps, what to do basically, in terms of career wise?
Yeah, for me, it's knowledge, I think. Knowledge seeking really drives me. So I'm taking another course right now with EcoAg University with Mark Shepard. It's agroforestry for farmers. And I'm taking that because it had a really in-depth water section. So water is also a theme that I've been very passionate about all through my art school years. I've done 20 years of video and photography and installations about water and the qualities of water and the transient nature of water. And it's just always been a subject for me that I have this deep connection to. So the Mark Shepard course is going to increase my knowledge of the perennial systems and an agroforestry application, which is really great because I'm starting to see a lot more inquiry into large scale projects. And I'd like to see this expand into Canada and, make better use of our eco buffer areas and things like that. There's definitely a need for that. As well as, since the size of the projects that are coming my way are much grander in scale, we're at the opportunity to have effect on watersheds and ecological sensitive areas and bring back biodiversity of species. And like Canada's huge, right? Big land. So that's kind of where my mind is going is I started to get involved. Somebody reached out to me for more information about this eco buffer idea, right? And what they were developing was a pollinator species or a pollinator seed blend for the eco buffers, which is awesome, right? So for Canada is very monoculture based. There's a lot of that going on. So in order to increase that awareness in the general public is something that I'd really like to do. How can we make better use of our riparian areas on places where they can't be running machinery is something that I'd really like to tackle. The watershed restoration I'd love to tackle. Yes, it's like this inquiry. What do I want to know more about? I want to understand the water more. I want to understand, land works more, have a better understanding of the calculations and the way lands move and shift based on their soil components and things like that.
Yeah. So again, like, cause the way you want the detail. All right. So going back to when you see when you finished your PDC,
Yeah.
what was going through your mind there? What sort of defined your choices then, and how did you decide what to do after the PDC? Because a
Yeah.
lot this podcast is basically trying to figure out for people once you do your PDC, what do you do?
What do you do,
What do you
right?
do with? So
Yeah.
give them options. Uh,
Yeah.
what did you do?
Yeah, somebody had actually posted on a Telegram group about food forest abundance and said, they were looking for designers. And for about 3 weeks, I was like, meh, I don't know about that. It's online, it's over there. How do you know you're going to get paid? That kind of thing. And then something was just kind of chipping on my shoulder saying, why not? Like, why not just try? So I did reach out and I actually just joined with FFA and volunteered until my PDC was done. So I was just taking part in the meetings. I already knew I didn't want to go at this alone because of the depth of the subject. And I just thought, well, I'm going to want to be connected to people in all these different things. I don't want to pretend like I'm going to know it all, sort of thing. So, so that started right away. And of course, being an entrepreneur like I am, I just started looking for opportunities and I started meeting people and I still continue to do that. I go to events for like plant councils or visit nurseries. I go to farms. Anybody where I feel like, oh, this might be in alignment, I try to just put that on the calendar and go to events and network with people and just see what leads to the next thing. So those are some of the ways. I'm just trying to think of other ways. I Facebook groups, things like that. I started my own collective, it's called, so I could gather interest just in people that are like-minded in this sort of thing. They could join collective, and it was all about cross-pollination, because I think that's a major piece about permaculture that I really like to highlight when I started talking with management in FFA. I felt like that's the power of this organization is that we're a catalyst for connectivity. It's like we're like the mycelia of the idea. We don't have to be doing it all, but we connect all the pieces are already there. It's just a matter of bridging them. And then here you and I are talking across the world, right? And that's the magic in it, right?
Yeah. I had a very similar story up at best. Advertised on Facebook, and I had the same reaction. The sort of imposter syndrome. Oh, they'll not want me. I've just graduated this. and then
Yeah.
and then I put it on, and it was the same as you. Then got involved, learned the digital design, uh, and then started getting involved with shadowing, and then let loose then on clients by myself. So how did you learn the digital side of it? The
Yeah. Yeah, it's a good question. When I was in art school, I actually learned a lot of these programs. So I had an intro into Illustrator. I was doing Photoshop with my photography. I was doing video since like high eight, right? When we're like sitting in a dark room for 16 hours doing tapes and stuff. So using Premiere, I'm super, knowledgeable about all that. So picking up Illustrator, there was a learning curve there because I hadn't really worked with vectors as much, but I felt like because I had a pretty good wrap around those Adobe products, it didn't take me too long. And I just watch YouTube videos and I'm always learning, right? There's so much out there in terms of like how to use those programs. I picked up Affinity as well once I was more in a management position, just so that I could alter other people's things if I needed to and whatnot. And I found that's a pretty simple program. It's kind of like the dumbed down version of Illustrator, right? Like it does a lot of similar things. I was also doing After Effects, which was crazy, three-dimensional animation and things like that, but time consuming. So I felt like, yeah, I was equipped a little bit with some of that knowledge from my art school days.
Yeah, I definitely think the Adobe Suite gets you a better result, but the Affinity product gets you 80% of the way there.
Yeah.
And the likes of yourself who's artistic, maybe you notice the difference, but for me, I'd be very utilitarian, just get it done. I mean, engineering thoughts, just like the bells and whistles. We do have a course coming up, the PDCD Pro. Just put a mark in here, right? So if you go to pdcdpro.com, you can purchase that course there, and that uses Affinity. But it gets you going, it gets you enough to produce, Lindsay, about like a lot of designers use Affinity and produce great results.
Mhm.
but I'll happily admit that if you want a really, really top drawer, you have to go to Adobe, but then you have to pay for it every month.
Yeah, and for me too, it just made
Um,
sense because I'm doing photography and video, and so with that combination of those products, it makes sense for me. A lot of
yeah,
the designers do definitely choose Affinity because it's a one-time fee, whereas Adobe you have to pay month after month after month, right? So they get you like that. So it's really up to people to decide, what works for them for sure.
yeah, and hey, you're going to start off with Affinity, and then once you get going, then you're getting regular work. So means I would say go to Adobe. They have their better product.
Yeah.
Um,
And I've got a Wacom tablet too. So it's just like a drawing tablet. I don't know if I can really show you if it'll reach. See, that's this thing here.
oh, you
So
did.
it's a big drawing pad. So it comes with a pen, feels like paper, and I'm able to do like live manipulation of people's drawings very easily. So that's like another really excellent piece of equipment I highly recommend for designers that want to take this to the next level, to be able to, you're talking to somebody and be able to draw, oh, right here. And they see, yes, right here. This is where you want this, or you want me to move this. You can really do a lot of your modifications on your drafts live with them.
Yeah, that's what I do as well. It makes it a lot easier.
Yeah.
And I got caught once when somebody wanted square beds, not round beds. Now decided they want to go back to round beds. That's it. And like to
Angles.
me, I'd never done the hand drawings. I did say one time I wouldn't know where to start, and the voice somebody some smarter some the internet says start with getting a pencil.
Yeah, yeah, and I
uh,
like I come from
um,
the fine arts too, so I enjoy being
uh,
able to utilize the pen to make my own graphics for my legend. So each design I would draw a new thing. So maybe I drew a beehive for this drawing. Maybe I drew a log structure for a mushroom farm. So they're all my own illustrations, kind of creates my own style in terms of having a key or a legend of my graphics. And then I can just save those and pull them out each time and just keep adding to that library.
uh, so you're training for Forest Abundance, and you started off as a designer, and then you went to team leader.
Yeah, that's right. I was the regional team lead. We called ourselves West Side Soul. And then after that, it was about December last year, I was asked if I would be the lead designer for the Freedom Farm Academies and started 15 of those. And then, a few months later, the opportunity came up to be the head of design, and I jumped on it.
Yeah,
Yeah, so I've been doing that for the past year, and it's been great. I've had so many opportunities to do a lot of creative development in behind the scenes in terms of how things are done, and how we can really, of course, get into the details of what we're doing and what we're presenting to people for our designs. Yeah. And travel. Right? I love traveling and meeting all the new people and having some opportunities to do a couple TV shows. We did Modern Homestead last year. And then in February, I'll be going to Florida to go shoot another TV show called Backyard Bounty.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, again, a lot of things happen there. So how did you get involved in the TV show? Is that through Forest Abundance or?
Yeah, that's all Food Forest Abundance. I think people find Jim and they find Galt's Landing, right? And then they go to Galt's Landing and they see it in real life and how it looks and how it works, and they're very inspired by Jim and his message. He's really good with that, and then people want to run with this idea and share it. So with Backyard Bounty, we're doing the pilot show in Florida, and then if that goes well, it's to move around the country, right? And to show all the differences. So the TV shows have different models of their interest. Modern Homestead is more like a large pieces of property, right? And build your community and be self-sufficient, but that's not quite as bite-sized as let's change your lawn into a food forest and get you growing food. So they're completely different things that they're looking to do there. Really excited to work with Backyard Bounty as well to to weave in what we learn through our process, how to connect the installers and the designers. So that's another piece that there's a lot of potential for in terms of creating a design that is installer friendly in terms of handing projects off. If you're not installing them yourself, something to think about, right? With permaculture, you can design it, install it, you can install it, you can, where do you want to go at it from, right? So
Yeah, I was fine. I think I was quite lucky in for it. The ones was the installers I was paired with. Brian Munkel one. I done
yeah.
3 jobs. And I was having very good. So it's about the communication and then trusting your installer that they're really make changes and stuff on the ground. Because once they get there, there's things in place that you can't predict.
Totally. Yeah. And it's
Um,
really just like communication, right? And
yeah.
working with people that you know that you resonate with and that are aligned with the same vision as what you're trying to output, and that they're not gonna make a silly choice or change something dramatically that doesn't make any sense or add a bunch of chemicals because of whatever reason, right? So finding installers that are aligned with your vision is super important.
Yeah. Hey, so we have you mentioned as well you're a mentor for Verge. What does that involve?
Yeah, well, I call it coffee and questions. It's like I have a couple sessions where it's coffee and questions, right? People just come, the students come, they ask me anything pertaining to how they are wrapping their head around permaculture and applying it to either their property or someone they know, or even just a random property if they don't have a property. And it's just to be there as a mentor to answer questions as they create their own designs for their PDC certification. And then once the time has passed through the course, there's a couple different times where I'll show up and have some live discussion and whatnot, but it's marking the student projects and then supplying video feedbacks about their project because
And
it's all online, of course, as well.
yeah, and how are you finding that? Does that help you learn as well?
It sure does, yeah. And I
Um,
and I get to see people from all over the world, right? And I really like the opportunity to have to kind of like fly by the seat of my pants and come up with solutions right away. I thrive in that sort of environment. And then if there's an opportunity there for me to learn like something I don't know, which is often, I don't claim to know everything, that's for sure. So it's nice because there's an equal exchange there of, sharing and receiving knowledge. Mhm.
and then uh, do you have your own property that you work at, or farm at the minute, or
I also have my parents' place. So my parents and my sister, they own 9 acres of land just south of here. So it's open prairie, just at the base of the Rocky Mountains, sort of thing. And they have a massive garden there. So I've been working on their property for about 15 years. Um, and we'll be adding a lot more this year as well. They made some type 1 errors for sure. They put trees on the south side, which is like the absolute worst, right? So this year we might be attacking some of those type 1 errors and having to take those trees down to increase our sunlight exposure. But we've worked on the soil a lot there so that, the organic matter of the soil is so much better than it was when we first got there. It was basically sand, right? And now they have all the rain barrels, and we've got some perennial berry bushes growing all around the perimeter to protect the annual space and whatnot.
yeah? And
Yeah,
you did the Elaine Ingham's course as well, did you?
I did,
Sorry.
yeah. So I did Elaine Ingham's foundational courses. I've got the microscope, and I'm actually interested in live blood analysis. I might do that when I'm an old lady and can't work the field. But so I love looking at, looking at microbiology underneath that thing is a vortex and a mind warp. You can just see the personalities of bacteria. You can see the whole like cities of behaviors and interactions when you look at things in the microscope. It's just phenomenal. So it's an excellent tool for me to have in the field going forward. I also study Matt Power's books as well to get, better with the identification. I also have a unique interest in mycology, so I deep dive into that as well. Textbook style reading is all I really like to do. And yeah, and then the Mark Shepard's course. And then after Mark Shepard's course, I'm probably going to take another water course. We'll see. We'll see how much water information I get out of this one. But I'm really wanting to, yeah, have a really good wrap around water. I think it's super important. One of the most important things, I think, in terms of me investing, having land with water is like at the top of my list.
What do you call the guy, Ben? He does Jeff Lutton's watershed stuff. He's very good with basically he was the uh he does all Jeff basically takes the LiDAR over like say a large area and then he's able to do the watersheds and animate it using Adobe.
Beautiful.
It is class. I'll send you his links. I'll put those links in the description as well. I keep trying to get him on, but he's always busy.
I
Um
would love to see that.
yeah, so that's good. So he's one of the best I've seen of that kind of stuff. It's taking large areas and the LiDAR images and producing really, really great. And because you can't always rely on the contour map generator.
Yeah.
Because I even point here, contours go in the complete wrong direction.
Yeah. Yeah. So,
Um,
and I do have a couple drones and I haven't used the program yet. There is a drone deploy I'd like to give a shot at, but it's tech, takes a long time to run this stuff. But drone deploy will actually utilize the drones that I have to create that sort of map where we can do 3D scaling and stuff. Definitely something I'd love to get into in the future once I get that body double going on.
yeah. Yeah, the name is Ben Missimer. You call him.
Yeah, like natural pools.
Yeah,
Yes,
it's
please.
Pear River Eco Design. And I'll leave the links in the description as well. He does all Jeff Lawton stuff. So, and I think too, they hinted that they were actually going to release a course on it as well. So, I'll definitely be named down as soon as I see that. That's something I'd be interested in mapping in the QGIS, so the geographic information systems, things like that.
Yeah.
I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, the things we get excited about.
lines on a screen. All right.
Yeah.
All right. So, then you have Food Forest Canada. Again, what kind of stuff do you do for them?
For Food Forest Canada,
Yeah.
that's me growing locally in Canada. Basically, any permaculture design, it's pretty broad range. I'm planning a spring tour. I'm going to be hitting up people that I've met along the way. I have a lot of friends that have purchased land, and I'm going to be working with, going to them and trading services as well. So, staying at my friend's B&B for a couple nights on an island and then helping her and then also integrating into the community there, like learning who's doing permaculture there and doing a tour and just like putting my body physically in these places because I think there's a lot of power to that, right? We've had so many years where we've been so disconnected. Everything's very online, and I feel like just getting my human outside and into these spaces and interacting, in a three-dimensional way is super important. And yeah, just knowing who's doing what here in Canada and getting a little bit more familiar with who's got nurseries and things like that, so that when I am providing designs for people in Canada, I have adequate resources to be sending them to, and also just in spreading the word about what I'm doing as Food Forest Canada, and that there is a market for this and that this is a thing, because I feel like a lot of people don't know what permaculture is. They really don't. And I get a lot of smile and nods when I say, what do you do? Oh, I'm a permaculture designer. They're like, oh, well, that's nice. Like, they don't quite know what that is, right?
Well,
So
what I say is I design edible gardens, and that's like I know it's not adequate, but it's it's a I think it's an appropriate starting point. And then I put on the fact that you have to use nature and not use chemicals, and then it's sort of right. That sort of gets the conversation going a wee bit, because if people just don't know what permaculture. Now, my 4-year-old can say permaculture, but that's quite cool.
yeah, but it's cool because as soon as you
Wow.
start talking about it, it's like everybody likes it.
Yeah.
Everybody, oh, that's cool. Like, oh, tell me more. Like everybody seems to be interested. I can't even think of an occurrence where somebody has been like, huh, right? Like lame, right? It
Yeah.
just doesn't happen, right?
Wow.
I think people inherently know and understand that the relationship between us and the earth is a good one.
Yeah. Well, we're all part of nature, and I think we've been taught to forget that.
Yeah, and that
It-
actually, sorry, I was just going to say that actually kind of brings me up to where I'm taking things. I have a lot of big goals for 2024, and one of them is to get away from products and get closer into process. So when we're offering a permaculture service, we come with the understanding that it's a process, right? There's this give and take, and there's a flowing and changing relationship in what we're doing, so that we can get away from the boxed idea of this is what it is. This is what you want, and this is here it is. Because that's not really what I want to inspire in people that are coming to me to work with the earth and work with their property. I want to encourage that relationship between them and the outside world and their environments, and get them to ultimately hold the permaculture ball themselves, because they're the ones that are going to be maintaining these systems, right? And it's not only going to benefit the earth, but it's going to benefit them, and it's going to benefit their families and their relationships as they have a deeper understanding of how their ecology works, and how they, what is their place and how we all fit in together. Yeah.
Yeah, do you think back to what you said earlier? You wanted to be part of a group, a community, so people want to be part of that community and learn in that environment. I think that's important as well. They bring them into the community and support them after they get a design, and so I think that's important as well. So entrepreneurship and permaculture, how have you welded the two, and how does that
Sorry, you
work?
kind of your
Sorry.
your video cut out and then went back to
Right.
normal.
So entrepreneurship and permaculture, you seem to have done quite well at managing the two and maintaining your ethics and your principles. Would you have any advice for other aspiring entrepreneurs looking to get into permaculture as a career or as a business?
Yeah, absolutely. Just meet as many people as you can, like opportunities to network with others, uh, to share responsibility as much as possible, to never assume that you know, and be curious and ask others for guidance. Yeah, never to depend on one source of knowledge.
Or income?
Always, yeah, always increase your knowledge, right? Like always be curious about more, and yeah, question when you think you know. Yeah.
Well, great stuff. Anything else you'd like to add now? Tell us where people can find you, or what's the best way
Yeah.
of getting in touch or whatever.
Yeah, so
All over
Food
it.
Forest Canada on all the socials. I'm on TikTok a little bit, and mainly because their video editor was so quick. And then there's, Instagram and Facebook is all at Food Forest Canada. Same with YouTube. And I'm starting to put my, interviews and things like this that are up there. And my website, foodforestcanada.ca, is another place you can find me. I guess the other piece of advice that I would have for people is to not be afraid of public speaking, and to do things like this a lot, because it provides a lot of opportunity for self-inquiry, to know where you're coming from, where you are, and where you're going, and share that with others.
Great advice. Lindsay, thank you very much.
Yeah,
That's 45 minutes. We are.
right on. Yeah, thanks
Uh,
so much, Cormac.
that's great. And for all these listening, I'll leave Lindsay's links in the description. Thanks very much for joining us. And don't forget as well, I'll leave the link if they want to do strategy sessions for Food Source Bonus as well.
I don't.
You don't? Well, we'll edit that out. I'll leave
I
my
don't have a
strategies.
link.
I'll leave my strategy session link in the description if you want a 30-minute free strategy session with myself through FFA. So
And then I could put in my network link. I'll give you my network link if you'd like to join my network.
yeah, so Lindsay's affiliate link, so you can join our network as well. That as well, there'll be a small income for you as well for Good Force Designs. So FFA have an affiliate program, so sign up to Lindsay's link in the description. Lindsay, thank you very much. Cheers.
Thank you. Bye.